Hello and a very good evening. Those who are joining this live broadcast know this. We are reporting live from Manipur, Imphal. Those who are joining this live broadcast know this. In the last 10 minutes, a lot has changed for Manipur. Those who are joining this live broadcast probably already know that President's rule has been imposed in the state of Manipur. More than 21 months after the violence broke out, but only 4 days 4 days since the chief minister has resigned, last Sunday, the president's rule has been imposed. That is the biggest breaking development coming in on this Thursday evening. President's rule has been imposed in the state of Manipur. I would request my producer to take that notification full frame as I read the excerpt out of it. The notification which has been issued from Ministry of Home Affairs, it says, the following proclamation by the President is published for general information, whereas I, Draupadi Murmu, President of India, have received a report from the Governor of the state of Manipur. And after considering the report and other information received by me, I am satisfied that a situation has arisen in which the government of that state cannot be carried on in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution of India, hereinafter referred to as the Constitution. Now, therefore, in exercise of the powers conferred by Article 356 of the Constitution and of all other powers enabling me in that behalf, I hereby proclaim that I assume to myself as President of India all functions of the government of the state of Manipur and all powers vested in or exercisable by the governor of that state. Declare that the powers of the legislature of that said state shall be exercisable by or under the authority of Parliament. So President's rule has been imposed in Manipur, and make no mistake, this is not the first time. This is possibly the 11th time in the history of Manipur becoming a full state that President's rule has been imposed. 10 times before, President's rule had been imposed in Manipur. In fact, Manipur and Uttar Pradesh are two states in this country, in independent India, where President's rule had been imposed for 10 times in the past. But today, as President's rule has been imposed in Manipur once again, Manipur will now be topping the list as one state in the country which has witnessed President's rule for the 11th time. Well, we know as a matter of fact that for the past 21 months, there had been massive violence which had engulfed Manipur. Violence which had killed more than 200 people, left 70,000 displaced. Violence for which, while the opposition kept on saying that Biren Singh, the former chief minister of the state, should be held accountable or should be expected to be taking moral responsibility, N. Biren Singh had over and over again maintained that he had done everything in his capacity to restore law and order, restore normalcy. And that's the reason he continued in the chair of the chief minister. Surprising everyone, last Sunday in the evening, N. Biren Singh met with the governor and submitted his resignation. N. Biren Singh on Sunday had also gone to New Delhi, met with top leaders including Union Home Minister Amit Shah and BJP National President JP Nadda. After he came back, after he came back, he went and submitted his resignation to the governor. But then thereafter, hectic parleys has happened. Hectic parleys have happened here in Imphal. The Northeast in charge of BJP and a member of parliament, Sambit Patra, was flown down to Manipur. Sambit Patra tried negotiating with all other MLAs. Expectation was that N. Biren Singh would be stepping out and a new chief minister would be filling in his shoes. Even though BJP as a political party, back in 2022 had won 32 seats out of 60 assembly. Out of 60 total assembly seats, 32 were won by BJP, and then there were other allies who had extended support, making the alliance a comfortable 47 out of 60. Yet, BJP could not stitch together a government after N. Biren Singh resigned. In fact, in the past 3 days, there had been lot of meetings between several MLAs. What you've been given to understand that the 7th session of the 12th Legislative Assembly of Manipur was supposed to start on 10th of February and onwards. Congress, which had 5 MLAs, had plans of moving in on no confidence motion. They hadn't moved in as yet, but they had plans of doing it. What gave Congress the confidence? Possibly internal dissidence and internal faction within BJP. And that's the reason. If sources are to be attributed and if sources are to be believed, then BJP wanted to quell the dissidents which had been unhappy with the leadership of N. Biren. What you also learned that there were approximately 19 such MLAs who had, in a way, who stood against N. Biren Singh's leadership and wanted a change of guard. Yet, after there was a change of guard, N. Biren Singh's shoes couldn't be filled in with a new chief minister. The assembly was called in null and void. The assembly session was called off and was called null and void by the governor hours after N. Biren Singh had resigned last Sunday. But thereafter, as soon as the assembly was called in null and void, the possibility of a session where opposition MLAs could move a no confidence motion was also turned null and void. Nonetheless, meetings which happened in the past 3 days had almost given an indication that BJP was trying hard to, in fact, have someone filling the shoes of N. Biren Singh. Question is, what went wrong? Even after having majority, BJP could not replace N. Biren Singh. For the time being, we are reporting from outside Kangla Fort, and which is the heart of the city. And as you report from here, just to give you a sense of the movement of the vehicles, army, central forces, they had deployed themselves out here. Barricades have been put up. For the past couple of days, this had been an unusual scene, which almost gave an indication that there was something in the build-up or there was something in the making. Basically, with the president's rule, all powers of the government of Manipur have now been seized. From law and order to running the government or day-to-day affairs of the state have now been taken over by the central government. At the helm is the President of India. Most importantly, the judiciary would be, as the only exception, would be functioning, but the rest, all powers of the government, administrative, civil, all powers have now been seized. The state government, none of the MLAs who have been a people's representative will have any powers with them. None of the ministers will have any powers with them. In fact, it's very, very strange. This president's rule had only been imposed on Thursday, almost a day after the 6-month period within which you are expected to call one assembly session at least, as mandated by the constitution, got over. In fact, it got over on 12th of February. The last assembly session was called on 30th of June, and that assembly session had died sine die on 12th of August, and thereafter the 6-month period ended on 11th of February, which means by 11th of February, the governor of the state was expected to call for another assembly session. But how could the governor call if there is no chief minister, and most importantly, if there is no one to stake claim of the government? The governor, who had called the 7th session of the 12th Legislative Assembly null and void, many are wondering why. Because if the assembly session had to be kept functional even without the chief minister, procedurally, the assembly session could have operated to avoid a situation that could be seen as constitutional crisis. Yet, the governor had called the 7th session null and void, making it inevitable, either suspended animation or president's rule. Well, there had been a lot of murmurs, lot of talks, lot of speculations, but then almost 24 hours after the deadline got over, there had been absolutely pin drop silence. In fact, ideally, this decision should have been announced yesterday, because yesterday was 12th of February, which is hours after that 6-month period had been over. For almost a day, Manipur as a state had only lived in absolute ambiguity as whether it's suspended animation or whether it's president's rule or if there would be any other alternative. Yes, to put things in perspective, there had been a Supreme Court verdict, a verdict on a case pertaining to an individual versus state of Gujarat of 2002, where the Supreme Court had clearly stated that if an assembly session could not be summoned as mandated under Article 174, subclause 1, within the 6-month period, not necessarily thereafter, the assembly had to be dissolved. If that Supreme Court order had been of some reference for legal remedy, nonetheless, it is now clear. President's rule has been imposed in the state of Manipur. For the 11th time, President's rule has been imposed in the state of Manipur. I just want my video journalist Ronnie Chatra to focus on these visuals. As you see, the barricades have been put up, and every vehicle which is coming here in Imphal or crossing through the Kangla Fort area, they're all going through they're all going through a screening process. All are going through a screening process, and every vehicle is now been screened. Vehicles are being frisked just to ensure there is no build up to anything untoward. Yes, for the past 2-3 days, we have been seeing massive deployment of forces on the ground. We have also been given to understand that more forces have been called in to the state of Manipur, and it is because there had been something in making. So the central government, while it tried to give government formation in Manipur another shot, with BJP having majority in its kitty, yet the central government ensured Plan B, which is President's rule or suspended animation, was also there on standby. And that's the reason we had seen massive deployment of forces on the ground just to avoid any fresh flare-up. In fact, just to give you a quick reminder, this is the same Kangla Fort junction where we have seen mindless violence multiple times, where people had come out on the streets to express their resentment and register their protest, and often they had led to clashes between forces and protesters. We had witnessed all of that. Today here at Kangla Fort, we do see that there is massive deployment of forces, and just not here, all across the city of Imphal. Imphal, you had seen that there is deployment of central forces. In fact, just not in Imphal. Today in the morning, I had gone to Bishnupur. I had gone there to file a report, and over there, I also found additional deployment of forces. Just not in Bishnupur. I crossed Bishnupur and even went to Churachandpur. Over there too, there had been massive deployment of forces. In fact, the little buffer zone of over 1 kilometer or slightly around 1 kilometer has no less than 10 to 11 checkposts where every vehicle had been frisked. So yes, the deployment of forces on the ground had been an indication that there could be a build-up or there could be a build-up for something. But then President's rule has been imposed on 13th of February, just a short while back. So Manipur has now slid back to President's rule for the 11th time. And, it surprisingly comes after 11 months of mindless violence. We had seen in the past that the demand for President's rule or better accountability from the state government of Manipur was heard multiple times. Especially after the first incident of violence which happened on 3rd of May 2023, and soon after that there had been series of incidents of violence which followed, and eventually we know that more than 70,000 people were displaced, internally displaced. More than 200 people have lost their lives. For so many families and so many human beings, lives are not the same anymore. Things have changed forever. And we had seen soon after the violence and in the months following to that, every time there had been a fresh spate of violence, the demand for better intervention from the central government had been sought multiple times. But only after 21 months, we now see that President's rule has been imposed, which means the state police, which otherwise reports to the state government, law and order, which is otherwise the state subject, will now on cease to be the same. And with President's rule, the central government takes over every responsibility of running the government and running the state here on. So hereafter, the law and order becomes the center subject, and obviously maintaining law and order is equally the center subject now. The police will now be accountable to the central government, not to the state anymore, because there is no state government anymore. While BJP had the majority back in 2022 after the election, while BJP also had stitched an alliance, taking their number to 47. We had seen that this time around, in the past 3 days, after N. Biren Singh had resigned, no one could actually replace him, and no one could come forward to fill in that place. While BJP may have their own, their own statement and their own justification. Uh, uh, but then what you learn from sources within the BJP, that in the past three days, there had been hectic parleys to, in a way, form a consensus for one person to take over the metal for the chief minister's position, so that the state does not slid into either suspended animation or president's rule. While there had been multiple meetings between multiple leaders, while there had been also meetings between MLAs of BJP, alliance partners like NPP, and BJP, Northeast in charge Member of Parliament Sambit Patra. However, it seems like all talks could not, or rather did not, yield any result. The reason why President's rule has been imposed. I would request my producer Orko to put out the notification which has come from the President, from the Union Home Ministry, full frame, and I just want to read the notification once again. I quote, whereas I, Draupadi Murmu, President of India, have received a report from the Governor of the state of Manipur, and after considering the report and other information received by me, I am satisfied that a situation has arisen in which the government of that state cannot be carried on in accordance with the provisions of Constitution of India. Now, therefore, in exercise of the powers conferred by Article 356 of the Constitution and of all other powers enabling me in that behalf, I hereby proclaim that I assume to myself as President of India all functions of the government of the state of Manipur, and all powers vested in or exercisable by the governor of that state. Declare that the powers of the legislature of the said state shall be exercisable by or under the authority of the parliament. It is a matter of fact that after you impose precedence rule within a stipulated period, you have to take it to the parliament, and it has to be passed in both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. We have to now wait and see as how leaders would react to this. Because uh, over the past 21 months, we have seen massive showdown in parliament. We have seen a no confidence motion being moved by Congress and other opposition, supported by other opposition leaders back in 2023, only compelling the Prime Minister to respond to that no confidence motion. And almost after 100 days, he spoke on the issue of Manipur on the floor of the parliament. He also spoke on the floor of Rajya Sabha. He spoke on the floor of Lok Sabha. But then we have seen in the past several months, as far as people of Manipur are concerned, they have expressed their disappointment with the fact that Prime Minister did not come and visit the state when it was dealing with one of the worst crises it has faced in almost a decade. Well, we have also seen in the Lok Sabha, BJP, which was in power in one Lok Sabha, that is Inner Manipur, and the alliance being in power in the Outer Manipur, both of them lost those two seats in Lok Sabha election 2024 to BJP. Thereafter, we had also seen that how Manipur as an issue kept on coming up on the floor of the parliament with Bimol Akijam, the Lok Sabha Member of Parliament from Inner Manipur, the Congress MP, time and again demanding answer from the central government as the kind of situation which is currently on in Manipur. What is a solution to that, and how long will it take to bring a solution to the current situation, and most importantly, end the violence or the spate in violence. Mind you, we are talking about Manipur, a state, and especially at a time when there is a clear divide. We know that, there is a community in the hills which community people who cannot really come down to the valley, and vice versa. From the valley, one particular community cannot go to the hills. That is the divide. In fact, separating Churachandpur and Bishnupur is a huge buffer zone guarded by forces from all around. So obviously there is a deep sense of divide in the state of Manipur, a deep sense of divide which is just not an undercurrent, which had been on since 3rd of May 2023. as the first incident of violence happened. So obviously that issue had found its mention in the parliament time and again, especially from the opposition, seeking better accountability from the central government, better accountability from the state government, and mind it, both had been the BJP government. So now President's rule has been imposed. We have to wait and see when the matter goes to Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, how the parliament reacts to it. But yes, as I said, President's rule has been imposed in the state of Manipur. And with this, it becomes the 11th time that President's rule has been imposed in the state of Manipur. I was just quickly doing a research, and it shows that Manipur and Uttar Pradesh are the states where President's rule has been imposed for a maximum times, that is 10 times in both states respectively. President's rule has also been imposed in 4 previous states for their reconstitution, that is Vindhya Pradesh, Patiala, and East Punjab States Union, Andhra State, Travancore Cochin in 1949, 1953, 1954, and 1956 respectively. I would attribute this to researchgate.net. And so yes, it essentially highlights the number of times President's rule had been imposed. President's rule had been imposed in different states, in the different states of the country. So basically, the imposition of the President's rule under Article 356 effectively transfers all the functionable, functions and the powers to functions of the state government to the center, and the function of the state legislature to parliament during this period. Please understand, the state government, while operating, it has got different departments. For example, there is a home ministry which ensures law and order in the state. For example, there is education department. For example, there is PWD department. For example, there is a transport department, several other departments which are also taking care of the civic work, in the state. So all the powers of every department, of every ministry, have now been seized, and all the responsibilities will now here on be performed by the central government. As far as function of the state legislature is concerned, that has now been transferred to parliament during the period that the president's rule will be enforced, which means the MLA of one particular assembly constituency, while would continue to be an MLA, but will cease to have powers of being a member of a legislative assembly or member or be a people's representative. The only exception to this is functioning of high courts, which remains unchanged. So as far as Manipur High Court is concerned, that will be functioning as it is. So there will not be any intervention in that particular regard. So president's rule doesn't really make a difference over there. Um, and so basically, just to give you a quick sum up, and as I said, in this situation, the president will issue a proclamation, as it's already been issued, and it will remain in force for 2 months. All right. So this proclamation, which has been issued by the president, it will remain in force for 2 months. And within this 2 month period, the matter has to be passed in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. I will ask my video journalist Ronnie Shatra to just pan the camera and try and give you a sense of the visuals as how every vehicle is now getting frisked in Imphal. So yes, every vehicle which is passing through this Kangla Fort area, which is a very crucial junction, they are now getting frisked by central forces, security forces. For example, Army, CRPF, Assam Rifle, they're all deployed here. Manipur Police, which had been under the state government, will now on be reporting to the central government. So yes, as the proclamation has now been issued, it will be there for 2 months, and the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha will have to approve it through a resolution before this 2 month period expires. That's the procedure. Now, if it is being approved, please understand, if it is being approved, in that case, this proclamation, which has been issued by the president today, which is 13th of February, will can be extended for up to 6 months. So, as I was doing some research while being on live, I do see that since 1950, when the Constitution of India first came into force, President's rule has been imposed total 134 times. 134 times. This would add to that and make it 135 times. So since 1950, after the Constitution of India came into being, for 134 times President's rule has been imposed in different states and UTs over the years. And this time that President's rule has been imposed in Manipur will only add to the tally and make it 135. I do see a lot of movement of forces on the road. The hope and prayers are that there should not be anything untoward. As I always say, Manipur has seen a lot, witnessed a lot. The last thing that people want now is a fresh spate in violence. People want peace. People want, uh, people want to continue with their lives and get back to a normal life. Those who haven't been able to do so. There are people who really want to go back to their villages. There are people who want to go back to their land. There are people who are still hoping that government would give them some compensation, those who have not received any money as yet. So yes, there are multiple expectations of the people who have suffered at the hands of this mayhem or have been victim of this mayhem. But nonetheless, over the past couple of days, as you have been reporting from here, we have also seen a public sentiment, a growing public sentiment, which had also been demanding for a president's rule. Probably it's an expression of desperation, or probably it is an expression that enough is enough. President's rule should be tried out now to see if there is some solution to what's ongoing. So going back to the point, as I said, since 1950, after the Constitution came into being, 134 times President's rule had been imposed across 29 states and UTs of India, and this would make it the 135th time that President's rule has been imposed. I was also, I was reading upon this that since 1950, Jammu Kashmir has spent over 12 years. Jammu Kashmir has spent over 12 years, which is 4,668 days under President's rule, and Punjab has been under the central control for over 10 years, which is more than 3,800 days, more than that. So, and in both these, in both these two states, the president's rule had been imposed owing to recurring spells of militancy and alleged separatist activities. That president's rule had been imposed in Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab, and that these two states had been uh, had been under the central control for a very long period. But as far as number of times president's rule had been imposed, it is Manipur which is topping the list, because Manipur had seen president's rule 10 times before, 10 times before, and this is the 11th time that president's rule has been imposed. In fact, in the most recent imposition of president's rule happened back in 2021 in Puducherry, after Congress government, after Congress government failed the vote of confidence in 2021, and thereafter president's rule was imposed there in Puducherry in 2021. That is the most recent memory of president's rule which had been imposed. Does it really curb any kind of liberty of people? Essentially, no. Like you see, people are on the streets, people are moving freely. So president's rule is no way curbing freedom of individual. It is very important to understand president's rule does not mean curfew. So president's rule is absolutely a different ball game, and we should not be confusing it with any kind of misinformation around, or I would say wrong information disseminating from around. So as you see, the vehicular movement on the streets, especially of forces, is an indication as how forces have taken their position, and they are all on standby just to ensure nothing untoward happens. I was talking to a very senior officer. In fact, I was also talking to army officers, and both kind of seem to suggest the same thing. Both said that it is a sensitive time. It is a sensitive time, and especially at a time when there is no chief minister, and that Manipur is in the cusp of a transitional phase, that any transitional phase can be quite unpredictable and it could be equally vulnerable. That's the reason, not taking any chances, there had been massive deployment of forces, and forces are on standby to assert their dominance so that nothing untoward happens. Just to give you a quick sum up, yes, President's rule has been imposed in the state of Manipur, mind it, 21 months, more than 21 months after the first incident of violence that happened in Churachandpur on 3rd of May 2023. And this President's rule also comes just days after, I would say precisely 3 days or 4 days after N. Biren Singh had stepped down as the Chief Minister. N. Biren Singh had stepped down as a Chief Minister on 9th of on 9th of N. Biren Singh had stepped down rather. N. Biren Singh had stepped down as Chief Minister on 9th of February in the evening. That was a Sunday. And soon after that, we saw on Sunday itself, the governor of the state had called the immediate impending 7th Assembly session of the 12th Legislative Assembly of Manipur null and void, which means that the assembly session, which was supposed to start from 10th of February, was declared null and void. All this while there had been a growing speculation if the opposition, which is Congress, with just 5 MLAs, will be able to move a no confidence motion, and if they would be able to garner support, exposing support from BJP and other alliance members, exposing chinks within BJP and factions within BJP. Yes, if sources are to be believed, there had been about 19 to 20 dissidents within BJP who had been unhappy with N. Biren Singh's leadership, and especially after the violence broke out. Let's not discount the fact that NPP, National People's Party, the party of Cornel Sangma, which is an alliance of BJP, had been an alliance in Manipur as well. But after the violence broke out, questioning the leadership of N. Biren Singh, NPP had withdrawn support. So while NPP continued their alliance in Meghalaya, continued with their alliance with the central government, but here in the state of Manipur, NPP had withdrawn their support. And soon after N. Biren Singh's resignation as the chief minister, NPP had extended support. They had said that they were upset with N. Biren Singh. Anyone but N. Biren Singh, if becomes the chief minister, they would be supporting BJP. The point that I'm trying to highlight, even with numbers in their kitty, BJP could not come up with a replacement to N. Biren Singh, and that possibly is a very, very interesting thing and an interesting development. If President's rule was something that they had been contemplating as the only option, then Sambit Patra possibly wouldn't have been flown down to Imphal and was made to hold such hectic parleys, such negotiations with the dissenting MLAs, or made to hold talks with MLAs within BJP and outside. That itself was an indication that N. Biren Singh, after having resigned, they would possibly find a replacement to N. Biren Singh. I was also in touch with N. Biren Singh's camp, if I can use that word, and I was given to understand that there are about 20, 24 MLAs who still support N. Biren Singh. The fact of the matter is, whether this faction had support or that faction had support, the fact of the matter is, as it boils down to, President's rule has been imposed in the state of Manipur. There are a lot of questions which are now coming to fore. For example, the timing of this President's rule. Why is the President's rule is coming out almost a week or 10 days after there had been a Supreme Court order asking CFSL, that is Central Forensic Science Laboratory, to also study and investigate the purported audio clips which had come to public domain alleging N. Biren Singh's link to the violence which happened in the state of Manipur. Those audio clips, the purported audio clips which were leaked, were tested by an NGO named Truth Lab, and they found 93% of match between the voice samples that were found in the purported audio clips with that of the voice of N. Biren Singh. Yet, they had done there had not been any kind of a reaction coming in from BJP. Only when the matter went to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court gave CFSL the order to investigate and submit a report within a stipulated period, that to in sealed envelope. Realizing the sensitivity of the matter, within a week we saw N. Biren Singh stepping down as the Chief Minister. Question number one, N. Biren Singh stepping down at this juncture, why? And if this is the decision entirely of the central leadership. Question number question number three, why is this resignation why did this resignation happen almost 21 months after the violence? If somebody had to take moral responsibility of the violence or take accountability of the violence, then this resignation could have happened long back. In fact, I still recall it was month of June in 2023 that we saw supporters of N. Biren Singh literally barge into his residence and snatch the resignation letter, and in full public glare of media cameras, the resignation letter was torn off. So all that we have witnessed, and in the past 21 months, there had been at least 3 to 4 four times when there had been a massive spike in violence, but then N. Biren Singh did not step down then. N. Biren Singh did not step down then. In fact, in the month of January this year, N. Biren Singh on his birthday has also apologized to the people of Manipur for the violence. I mean, you apologize to the people of Manipur for the violence, almost indicating that okay, it is time that somebody takes some responsibility, and I do. But then he resigned only on 9th of February. 9th of February, which is almost a month after he had publicly on TV apologized. So there are a lot of questions coming to fore. The resignation happening on 9th of February. Then for 3 4 days, there had been hectic parleys, but BJP could not form the government again. And then on 13th of February, President's rule has been imposed. We also know that there had been statements issued by no other than the Union Home Minister. Union Home Minister had referred to the spate in violence that happened during the Congress regime in the state of Manipur. Union Home Minister Amit Shah on the floor of the Parliament has also said there had been illegal immigration that had been going on, and that has also meant catastrophic for the territorial integrity of Manipur, and that the entire border between Manipur and Myanmar, that is Burma, would be fenced. In fact, work to that effect had already started. We also know, as a matter of fact, time and again, there had been a lot of statements issued by the government of Manipur, that is N. Biren Singh's government when he was in power, that these number of people have been sent back to Myanmar. These number of people have been pushed back to Myanmar. So we have seen that. And in the statement of Union Home Minister Amit Shah, we have also found the reference of narco-terrorism. The question, and the final one, thus is, has the situation become that important and significant that it has warranted a president's rule for direct action and intervention of the central government in law and order and maintenance of peace and territorial integrity of the state, eventually territorial integrity of this nation called India? There could be certain geopolitics sensitive in nature, and that's the reason we have tried steering away from all of that, realizing nothing comes more important than the country, nothing comes more important, or nothing comes before the territorial integrity of India. We all want safety, peace, harmony for the state of Manipur. We also want that the territorial integrity of India, including the state of Manipur, stays intact. And that's the reason such sensitive issues we practically have tried steering away, because that is a sensitive matter. A lot of things happen on the ground which you get to hear, or probably could be subject of speculation, but then it's always better not to discuss them in public, and we respect that the central government would definitely be taking the decision in the interest of the people, in the interest of India, and of course in the interest of territorial integrity of India. Thus, the final question, as I said, has the situation now warranted a presidential rule in Manipur to take charge of the entire situation and fix certain situations, or is this a failure in formation of government by BJP that has only paved in the way for president's rule? Nonetheless, as we wind up the show, the live broadcast, just to let you know that President's rule has been imposed in the state of Manipur for the 11th time, and in this President's rule period, which would be there in effect for 2 months period starting from today, as the proclamation has been issued by the President of India. Within this 2 months period, it has to be approved by Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and only after it is being approved can that be extended for another 6 months. So here is the thing. President's rule has been imposed in the state of Manipur. I really don't see this would be curbing anyone's personal liberty. And you have a clear picture. So don't form any kind of a confusion. Don't get agitated. Don't try and form any kind of a misconception. It is a decision which has been taken, and this decision will not be interfering with your personal liberties. Absolutely not. It is not like your movement would be curbed. It is not like you will not be able to go to the shop. It is not like the schools will not remain open. Absolutely not. Everything would be continuing as it is. Only the powers of the state gets transferred to the central government. The powers of the legislative assembly gets transferred to the parliament. That's it. You as an individual, you as an individual should not be worried about your own personal liberty and freedom. With that, we want to wind up this live broadcast from Imphal, from the heart of the city, right outside Kangla Fort, where there is massive deployment of forces, and all fingers crossed. We all want peace in Manipur. We all want harmony in Manipur. We all would keep our fingers crossed that this transitional phase also turns out smooth without any incident of violence. We are winding up this live broadcast. This is Tamal Saha, along with my video journalist, Roddy Shatra, reporting from Imphal in Manipur for News the Truth, NTT. For all those who have joined this live broadcast, a big thank you. And as I said, there's nothing to be worried about. Have faith and have your hopes alive. Thank you, good night, and take care.